Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Joe Tyrrell and welcome back to the Runoff, the GP Blog podcast. And after last week's disastrous race, or 2 weeks ago, sorry, in Mexico, we have been treated to a thriller at Interlagos. We said it, lads. It always delivered. Welcome back, Toby and Cam. We had a good weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Finally we had a non-Max Verstappen win and a race that really provided some entertainment, both on and off the track. Obviously, we've seen the drama that's unfolded thanks to certain drivers' decisions in the race. So nice to see some spicy action happening both on and off the track and providing some entertainment towards the end of the season. And obviously, a little bit of a dead rubber in terms of their championship, but still things to fight for. And it's nice to see that drivers are still sort of ready to fight for those things.
Absolutely. A brilliant race. Toby, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, Cam pretty much just summed up the whole race in about 30 seconds. So, no, I really loved it. I think it finally had some action that we were looking for. It's been a while since we've had kind of the sparks. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I think with all the drama, kind of the surprise of K-Mag as well. Well, if anyone has anything bad to say about it, it'll just be talking about I couldn't think of the word then, certain aspects of drivers' reactions or little incidents that happened in the race.
Yeah, we said it 2 weeks ago that we forgot that there was a sprint race, and the sprint race immediately threw up some drama. George Russell getting his first F1 win, and that really set Mercedes up, and it set us up for a good race weekend, didn't it? A brilliant weekend for George.
Yeah, it was. Toby very happy that George Russell had a good weekend and finally won a race in F1. Obviously, the sprint, whether it counts as a win, he probably wouldn't have taken it himself. But to back that up with a win on the Sunday, obviously massive for him. Personally, obviously been a tough season for Mercedes and Hamilton to have Hamilton, in second place for I think third consecutive race, have Hamilton there and have a 1-2 for Mercedes after struggles for them is obviously a massive result for them. And yeah, it had some surprises throughout the weekend. Obviously, Kevin Magnussen getting pole obviously was helped by the fact that Russell beached his car and then obviously the rain came and people put on inters and couldn't set a faster lap than Magnussen, but he went out and put that in when it really mattered. Obviously fell down in the sprint race as you would expect, but for Verstappen, the tyre choice in the sprint race didn't pay off. Going on the mediums and everyone's around him seemed to have better pace, and that's ultimately why Russell was able to win the race, win the sprint race, I should say, and get pole position. And from there, Russell looked pretty dominant. To be fair, Hamilton had some really good pace on both the mediums and the softs, but was never really able to close up to Russell, and obviously meant that Russell could get his first ever F1 win. So congratulations to him, obviously a massive result, shown a lot of promise. Should have had his obviously first win when he had that debut one-off appearance for Mercedes in 2020, but 2 years later he's finally ended that run without having an F1 win and ended Mercedes' run of not winning in 2022. So yeah, fair play to George.
Yeah, there were shades of 2019 and 2020 about this weekend for Mercedes. They were weirdly dominant.
Yeah, it was very reminiscent of the last few seasons. I think, I don't know, I know, Joe, you were very confident that Mercedes would come back eventually and get a win this year.
It's taken
The
us
penultimate race is a bit too late, but
Yeah, but it's just they looked really good. I think also I don't know if you two spotted it, but one thing quickly, the start where the lights went out, it was almost instant. And George Russell's start was probably one of the best I've seen this year from
yeah,
starting from pole position. It was almost it was perfect. He got away really comfortably, and I think that just from that moment he was probably thinking, right, I've got a really good chance of if I keep performing well like I normally do, I could win this race. And he just put on a show.
Yeah, really was a brilliant performance from Russell, Mercedes, Hamilton after the contact with a certain somebody, which we'll come on to. But yeah, a brilliant weekend all round for Mercedes. It was Carlos Sainz, wasn't it? Joined them on the podium. And yeah, so a disastrous weekend for Red Bull. And
yeah,
I say
not
that
easy,
quite
was
a
it?
lot of glee. Like I'm
Yeah,
quite
not
happy with that.
Yeah, not usual. We've seen them being pretty flawless this year. And obviously there was issues in the race. Obviously, Verstappen, the contact he did have with Hamilton, it was probably I'd say more Verstappen's fault than Hamilton. Verstappen was ahead in turn one, but then obviously by the time they've made that sort of left hand turn to turn two, Hamilton was ahead. Sort of reminded me a bit of when Ocon and Verstappen had that contact when Ocon was trying to unlap himself at Brazil, and just the way that the move happened. And obviously Verstappen tried to go down the inside at turn 2, and the room wasn't really there. And obviously I'd perhaps have said lean towards a racing incident maybe, but obviously I think if you could, put the blame on anyone, it probably was Verstappen. He probably should have backed out a little bit. And that obviously put him down to 17th, right down at the bottom after Ricardo and Magnussen had a DNF on the first. And then Verstappen obviously did well to make it up through the field. But that's what you expect in a Red Bull. And then, certainly had with Perez at the end, or, Red Bull sort of letting him through, whether it was a proper, Perez moving aside for Verstappen. Verstappen generally just did have more pace and was able to make a move. Probably was Perez let him through and see if Max could go and overtake Leclerc, which really was going to be a long shot. I'm not quite sure why Red Bull thought that was ever a possibility, really, to take points off Leclerc for the second in the Drivers' Championship. But Red Bull were pretty clear in their instructions on the radio that, if you don't get Alonso by a certain turn, I can't remember exactly what it was on that final lap, then you fall back and you let Sergio overtake him. And then Max just straight up refused over the radio, was saying that, look, I've told you this before. I'm not going to do it. To the surprise, really, I didn't think that he'd do that after all that Sergio's done for him, especially last year with countless incidents where he held up Hamilton.
Well, Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, Abu Dhabi's the prime
example. Won the world title.
There was, 6 or 7 probably incidents in 2021 where Perez just being there forced Hamilton to make decisions, whether that's an earlier pit stop that meant Max could win, or just held him up by extending his stint and holding Hamilton up for a lap or so that enabled Verstappen to come out ahead after a pit stop or anything like that. It happened numerous times, and for Verstappen to sort of deny, it's just meaningless points, really. Verstappen's already set the record for the most wins in a season, has already won the title, and for 6th place in the end is what it was. Finishing 6th or 7th, no one's really going to remember it, I don't think. But for Perez, those were crucial points in his battle with Leclerc to finish second. So a bizarre decision from Verstappen. Couldn't get my words out there. Yeah, bizarre from Verstappen. I'm not quite sure what his motive would have been for not letting Perez pass.
Well, the radio message afterwards as well was so bizarre. Like, he was like, "I told you beforehand, and I don't want you to ask me again." It's like, what? Like, what have they asked you to do before?
Sky was guessing that it was to do with Monaco.
Yeah, when Perez in qualifying wasn't he crashed and then didn't let Max a better time. But like, there's the amount of times that Perez has let Verstappen through, like, countless times, and he can't do return the favor to help his team get second, because a 1-2 in the Drivers' Championship will be great for Red Bull, but there's less chance of that happening now because Perez lost out on a few points that were easily obtainable if Verstappen had just let him past.
That is not a happy camp, I get the feeling now. Like,
Perez's comments after as well, being like, see what Max is really like and that kind of thing. And it's
after like, it had looked like they had such a good relationship. Max calling Checo a legend after he held Lewis up in Abu Dhabi last year. It is not a happy camp, I don't think. And so, I mean, there's only going to be one winner, and that'll be Max. But
there's one comment from Perez that stands out, which he said something like, Max wouldn't be a 2-time world champion without me, or something like that.
I must have missed that, but that is, I mean, it's, probably whether or not Hamilton would have had enough time to make a free pit stop in Abu Dhabi if he hadn't been held up by Perez, and who knows. But I mean, Perez has been a great teammate for Max. He's been a great teammate, and it's strange not to sort of mutually. I understand someone like Carlos Sainz not wanting to let Leclerc pass him when Leclerc was asking for Sainz to let him, because that's a podium and that's something you're going to cherish. But for 6th place, when you've already won the title and you've already got the most wins and that kind of thing, just to go down to 7th place isn't much to ask. I wouldn't have thought, but maybe Max has his own motives, his own reasons, and that's why.
Yeah, he's a weird guy, Max. Always said it. I think he's a weird bloke. Toby's put his hand up.
I'll put my hand up to get your attention. I found the quote. It says, I think if Max has 2 championships, it's thanks to me.
It's a bold statement. I mean, Max Verstappen is a very, very good driver. I think Perez has obviously helped, as a teammate always does. But I don't,
I think 2021 is fair enough. I think this year it's been pretty
Yeah, I'm not
Oh yeah, this year's been ridiculous by him. He's been unbeatable.
Yeah, but I think the 2021 Max would have had a harder time winning that if he'd had Albon or Gasly, the previous teammates to him.
100%. Well, we won't dwell on Max's reckless behaviour and immature behaviour because we're going to go on to our winners and losers now of the. Is it the Sao Paulo Grand Prix officially? I think it's the Sao Paulo Grand Prix officially.
Yeah.
The winners and losers of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, lads. Who wants to start? Who wants to kick us off?
Go on, Toby, kick us off.
Yeah, I'll be short and sweet. Mainly because my winners are Mercedes. I don't think there's too much more to say apart from that it's very reminiscent of their very powerful years. And the one thing from Mercedes that stands out was George asking on team radio after, I believe, or just before the second safety car ended, he asked if he was battling with Lewis Hamilton, or it was something like that. To which the reply was yes. So clearly Mercedes were fine for whatever happened with the winner, but to see obviously a Mercedes 1-2 is just, I think, quite good. And obviously as a George Russell fan, I'm quite happy. So Viva la George.
I think we're all just happy Mercedes have won. Like, if this had been any other year and Mercedes have been so dominant, we'd have been like, oh, Mercedes have won again, a bit like we are with Max. But like, I think we'd got used to it, and it is quite nice to see Mercedes doing well again because it's a better race when three teams are battling it out for the victory than Max Verstappen and then everyone else. Like, so it's been good to see Mercedes back competing, and they were dominant. Like, they didn't lose. They kind of lost many sessions, obviously.
Yeah, and Hamilton was so quick during the race. The amount of time he was gaining on Perez and Sainz whenever he was behind them after pit stop. So Hamilton was looking really, really quick, consistently setting incredible lap times that were sort of, you're looking at me like that's a second quicker than the person ahead's doing. So yeah, Mercedes clearly had some speed this weekend, and they'll be hoping that it's a sign of things to come for next year, that that they've made some good development and that can continue in 2023, because that's the ultimate goal for them. I think P2 in the constructors is a little bit of a long shot. I think it's 90 to Ferrari, so I'm not quite sure they're going to be able to have that swing in Abu Dhabi. So they'll be looking for 2023 and hoping to be back at the top, fighting for wins on a consistent basis rather than sort of just a one-off like this year.
Yeah. Let's hope Mercedes can continue their form next week, because we need three teams battling out next week, because Abu Dhabi is not a great track. So fingers crossed. But no, Mercedes and George Russell in particular, very much winners. Congratulations, George, on your first Formula One race win. Your winner, Cam, could have easily been a loser after not long, but he is actually a winner, Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, Fernando Alonso has been in the news a lot this weekend. Him and Esteban Ocon have, butted heads again. Obviously in the F1 sprint, he was sort of having a go at Ocon, being like, thank God this is going to be over soon. Like, thanks to our friend, we had a collision stuff, and obviously started down in 17th after being judged to have been at fault for the incident with Ocon. So with that penalty, dropped down to 17th, and then he, started the race 17th, and to finish 5th is a pretty incredible achievement. I know it's in an Alpine that is pretty quick, but to finish ahead of Verstappen, Perez, and Leclerc, even though all three of them had problems, is a pretty immense achievement. And yeah, but Alonso's made a habit of coming through the back of the field in an Alpine after having troubles in qualifying. Think back to Austria, that kind of thing, and always seems to put out the bag. So he's had struggles this year that have been completely out of his control, and the standings won't represent it. But if things have gone his way, he could be, he'll be top of the midfield and very comfortable. So, so fair play this week. In the race, he sort of just crept up slowly. I wasn't quite sure how it all happened, but suddenly I was looking and it was Alonso's sick or something, and I was like, oh, he's just, he's yet to pit. And then it came, no, Alonso has pitted, and I was like, how has this happened? How's he suddenly just come through the field like this and is right in the top? But yeah, fair play to him. Obviously the issues with Ocon have come to a boil after those two looked like they were mates, really. In the media stuff we've seen from Alpine, those two became teammates. It had seemed like they got on, and they genuinely were, friends, I guess. But it's come to light recently. So
yeah,
on track, they've had several instances together. I mean, it shows that they're always pretty close together, that they have
Yeah, that's what I'd say is they're always like there or thereabouts together, aren't they? So they're McLaren haven't really been at it this year, so they've been fighting each other for that best of the
Yeah.
rest.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, Alpine will probably be secretly quite glad that Alonso's leaving. The incidences that he has had with Ocon don't help Alpine. Those two, banging into each other, having collisions, and help the team. So they'll probably be slightly thankful that he's leaving. And obviously, I mean, it's hard to say, but I'm not quite sure if Alonso's ever left the team being mates, I guess, with his teammate. So there's some kind of divide with Alonso and his teammates, which is well, it provides a bit of drama. I'm not quite sure it's best for the teams that he's been at, but he's a very talented driver, and this weekend showed just why.
Yeah, very, very good drive. I picked the wrong Alpine driver in my predictions 2 weeks ago, but no, it is a funny one with Alonso. Like ridiculously talented, but he seems to fall out with everyone. So I wonder how he'll get on with Lance Stroll, who seems to have a habit of colliding with his teammate.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Alonso will be well clear of Stroll when they on the track, so they might not have too many issues.
Yeah, because Stroll almost took out Seb, who did fair play to him. He reacted pretty well. Losers. Now McLaren haven't had a great year, but this has got to be up there with one of their worst.
Yeah, this is as bad as the first weekend of the season, probably.
I mean, Ricardo, his race ended. Toby, sorry, this is your loser, Toby.
Yeah, it's Ricardo kind of ruined the fan favourites weekend straight away.
Yeah,
because I think everyone was supporting K-Mag. The move he was going for, just in my mind, it just wasn't on.
The door wasn't open. It wasn't like K-Mag had left it open. It just was never ever in any world going to make that move. It's like the one he did on Sonoda in Mexico. That's 2 in 2 weeks. The exact same thing. Like the one at Sonoda in Mexico, he was never going to make, and he's done it again here.
Yeah, it was just that kind of solidified my kind of McLaren being his losers because, well, to be fair, it was either going to be Ricardo or McLaren, but it only was McLaren because of the engine failure or whatever problem it was with Lando Norris because he was flying around that track. He looked really good, and obviously he was kind of ill. Well, no, he was ill.
Yeah, he was at fault for the incident with Leclerc.
He served his 5-second penalty and then still kind of had the pace to get around a bit. But I shouldn't really admit this, but I did doze off for a little bit in the middle section, and I woke up and Lando Norris was retired, so I was a bit confused. But yeah, it's just it looked good for McLaren in the last couple of weekends because they were closing the gap on Alpine. Whereas now it's basically all but guaranteed that they're not going to get fourth in the constructors. I don't know what the points difference is, but I assume it's
must be massive now.
Yeah, I think it was down to 7.
Alpine got double points.
Points difference is now 19. Alpine are now 19 points clear. So it's the same gap as Ferrari to Mercedes. So again, there's basically no chance that McLaren would get 19 points combined.
Yeah.
So they won't get, unless they win the race or whatever. They're not going to overhaul.
They need
Alpine. The problem with that is Daniel Ricciardo needing to get some points.
Yeah.
They're my losers. I think it's definitely a weekend to forget, and they're going to be really kind of annoyed with themselves that they've lost the 4th place in constructors championship by kind of this manner.
Finished 5th in the constructor. They're going to finish 5th in the constructors. It's just like the start of the season. Remember when Lando was quickest in Barcelona testing, and it was like, oh, it's going to have a 4-team fight. I mean, I was the same 4-team fight. Obviously, the first weekend of the season, they were right down the bottom and running like 19th and 20th for a couple of laps. But from that testing point to now, they would have hoped to have done better than 5th. That's for sure.
Well, it's Lando's just carried them.
Yeah.
Like when you look at the point difference, it's ridiculous. Because think about if Ricardo even had a half as good season as to now, they'd be clear from Alpine probably by like 30 points, 40 points. So I think Ricardo's really let them down this year.
It'll be interesting to see how Piastri shapes up against Norris. Will he be able to hold his own?
I'm excited to see how Piastri does because he's obviously got a massive reputation from the junior series, being F3 and F2, both at the first go. And I think he's going to do really well. But it will be interesting because Norris is clearly a very talented driver. If someone like Ricciardo, who's got 7 race wins in F1, is miles off. Norris is clearly a very good driver, although he was at fault for the Leclerc incident earlier today.
Yeah. Well, lots of praise for Norris, but McLaren are losers. Now, how the mighty have fallen. The most dominant world champion in Formula One history is a loser.
Yeah, I've selected Max Verstappen as my loser of the weekend, I guess, this week. Mostly because of the comments that he made towards Sergio Perez and how it's not all about stuff on track. Obviously, he caused the collision with Hamilton as well. Dropped down the field, and I mean, even finishing 6th was a bad weekend for Max Verstappen these days. And just the whole incident with Sergio Perez, just not letting him pass when all the things that we've mentioned before, all the things that Checo's done for Max during their time as teammates, to not return the favour and sort of let him pass to try and consolidate Checo's position in P2 in the Drivers' Championship is not really something that I'd expect to have seen. And it was disappointing really, because I was, you expect Max to return the favour and let Checo pass him. And I know it's team order, a thing that F1 isn't really, it's a sort of an unwritten rule that teams shouldn't do it, but they all do it. And for let Checo pass and then Max not to do it and cause up a big fuss about it, and sort of lose the friendship I guess he had with Checo is disappointing to see. That's why I put him in the loser section, just because of his antics, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say Max doesn't have the best reputation for his attitude and behaviour sometimes, on track, off track. And this is probably a low point for him. Toby shaking his head, Cam shaking his head. We're all in agreement.
Yeah,
Max,
obviously,
massive loser.
Yeah, obviously Hamilton had that comment as well in the post-race interview where it's like the battle with Max is like, yeah, what do you expect when it's with Verstappen? So it's telling. I mean, he's not really had an incident like that this season, really, where he's been at fault for a collision or anything like that. He seemed to have eradicated that kind of driving, I guess, from his repertoire. But it seems like that was definitely it was a Max of old move, I think, where you're like refusing to acknowledge that someone's ahead of you. And I thought they'd slightly got rid of that, but maybe not.
Max, you need to grow up. But lads, do you know who else are losers?
Us.
Yeah, us. That was who I was going to say, because we got 0 points in predictions this week.
Yeah, not a good weekend. I mean, to be fair to us, if we predicted pole correct, that would have been pretty insane. And even the winner, predicting Russell to win. I mean, it's been done before by both of you, I think. So you just picked the wrong weekend.
Yeah, we would have been very delusional to think that George Russell was going to win this weekend.
Yeah, we had a shocker.
Yeah, we did.
I got a bit unlucky. I predicted Ocon top 5, and it was Alonso top 5.
Yeah, and Toby got a bit unlucky because I made him change.
No, Joe did not get unlucky. You just got it wrong.
Yeah, that was the wrong private. Whereas Toby got a bit unlucky because he did originally say double Alpine top 8, which actually happened, but I made him change it to top 7, so it didn't happen. And that's simply because if the top 3 teams finished 1 to 6, then Alpine could just have 2 drivers next up and best of the rest, and that wouldn't really be a surprise, I don't think. So
not happy.
Double top 8. I don't think if they'd have come 7th and 8th, that wouldn't have been a surprise. That wouldn't have been a surprise, and you can admit it yourself. So I mean, even top 7's not like a surprise, but I guess it would have been.
It's a weekend to forget for us.
But yeah, like Joe said, we all got 0 points. So I'll run you through the predictions anyway. Toby guessed that Max would be on pole and win. Obviously, that didn't happen. It was Magnus and Russell and double Alpine top 7, which didn't happen. I went for a Hamilton pole, which was, I guess, kind of close. He finished third in the sprint race. Max won, and I predicted double McLaren top 7, and they both had a retirement. Yeah, so
hand up again.
It's the easiest way to get your attention. Did we not say pole position was going to be who won the sprint race?
Oh yes, sorry, yes. So obviously Hamilton pole, but it was Russell who actually pole.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, and then Joe predicted that Max would be on pole, would also win an Ocon top 5. Like he said, the points stay. Toby with 17, 16, Joe on 15, with 1 race left to go. So yeah, we'll see if that final race of the season can shake up the standings or not, or Toby will be crowned GP blog predictor champion, I guess. I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure what we're calling this, but yeah.
One race to go, lads. We've come a long way since Bahrain.
Yeah.
I think like 23 episodes, but we are approaching the end. Our final set of predictions. Obviously, we've not been keeping a score for the entire thing, but where do we start, lads? Who wants to go first?
Go on,
Bottom
Toby.
place. No, make Joe
bottom
start.
place.
Bottom
Okay,
place.
yeah.
Oh, fine.
That's a good
All
idea.
right, I'll go first. I'll go
There we
first.
go first. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Hamilton pole and win.
Oh, and win. Okay, nice.
Yeah, I'm backing Mercedes to have the pace again, and then I'm going to go for a surprise of a Haas top 8. Can I have that?
Yeah, I'd say if Toby's allowing it, I'd say
Yeah.
Haas top 8, which is the prize.
Sure.
Says the
Haas
man who
top
had like a Mercedes top 3 as a surprise.
Yeah, for a week. Yeah. Um, I'll go next because obviously I'm next. I'll do the same but different with Joe. I'll go Russell pole, Russell win. I've taken Toby's prediction and I don't care. And my surprise will be that. What do I think? Surprise. I reckon Alonso 5 again.
P5.
Top 5. Alonso
Top five.
finishing 5 again.
A big way to bow out of his Alpine career. Toby, what do you have to match that?
You predicting Vettel for a final race, Toby?
My Vettel, my surprise, but I'm gonna go Sainz pole.
Brave.
Verstappen win.
Yeah, I feel like one of us had to say Verstappen.
Yeah. And then Sebastian Vettel 5 finish.
Top 5.
His
Wow.
final race, top 5 finish.
Wowie.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have given you like top 8 or something.
I was gonna say top 7, but I felt like I'll go bold.
Yeah, you've already said it now.
I'm
So
gonna go bold.
Well.
Yeah. That is Vettel top 5 is brave.
Well, that's it. We'll see. We're locked in now.
I'll try and see what the odds are for that.
Yeah, what are the odds?
See if there's any decent
we're not
odds.
encouraging gambling. Gamble away.
Carry on talking. I'll try and see if there's anything about that.
Just a little mention for Seb. Last race weekend next week, there was a nice moment when Mick drove him round. Probably both their last F1 races for a while at least.
What do you reckon Mick loses a seat?
Oh, I think so. Like, it sounds like Hulkenberg signed a deal, doesn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I've seen for everyone.
Be interested to see what happens really, because that's the big guess. And obviously it depends if Sargent gets the
Williams seat. He needs a super license.
enough points for the super license. I think he's got to finish in the top 3 of F2, I think. And I think he's in. I believe that's correct. But yeah, no, I think Vettel was his last race. It'd be nice to see him bow out with a good result. Obviously, it'll probably be an emotional day for him. That's Sunday, obviously bowing out an incredible F1 career. 4-time world champion, countless wins. Obviously has a record for the most consecutive wins ever. And yeah, incredible driver. And be sad to see Seb go, but another chance. And so yeah, fair play.
It'll be nice to see some donuts as well. Toby, it looks like you've got the stats.
I didn't understand it. I couldn't find it. So
We haven't got the odds on it.
Huh?
We haven't got the odds on it.
No.
But either way, we will have a new world champion next weekend. The GP Blog Predictor Series. the most important championship as well.
Yeah,
but lads, it is late. It was another late race, so I'll let you get off. Thank you for joining me, as ever.
Thank you for having us, mate.
Yes, thank you, mate. I've enjoyed it.
It's an absolute pleasure, as always. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Spotify. You can watch the entire podcast, every episode, going back all the way to Bahrain. But until the season finale, we'll catch you next time.
Right, let's go.